That's our second bell. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing. Chris Jacobs, attorney at Davis and Keelthaw, will give our invocation.
Thank you, President Todd. Today's prayer is a prayer of Pope Francis. He invented something called the five-finger prayer. In the old Catholic tradition of carrying the rosary and being able to count your prayer order, as many religions do, you keep track of your prayers. Well, he realized people sometimes, especially in the poorest parts of the world, might not have a rosary, might not have a pen and paper or an iPad. So he uses the human hand for what he calls the five-finger prayer. He begins with the thumb. You pray for your family and friends. They're the closest to you, just like your thumb is. Next, you pray with your index finger for your teachers. They're the ones who instruct you, teach you how to be good. Oops. Next, the tallest and strongest is the government. Pray for our leaders. They need to be tall and strong for us. And they do that every day. And Pope Francis says to pray for them because they represent us and they are helping us in the end. The next finger is the ring finger, which of course is the weakest. You pray for the weak and the poor. And lastly is the pinky. The pinky is the smallest finger. sometimes you have to pray for yourself. And that is the prayer of Pope Francis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Everybody can take your seats. I'd like to thank all our sponsors whose logos appeared on the screens on the presentation before the program began. If you're interested in having your company's logo featured and supporting like Rotary, please reach out to Mary in the Rotary office and she can help you. I would like to welcome all our Rotarians here in person and our Rotarians online. I'd also like to recognize our guests who are here with us today. When I call your name, please stand. Millie Kobe from Employ Milwaukee. Kelly Resnick from the VA Medical Center. Mike Williams from the Guest House. Chris Marshka from PNC Bank. Fred Chambers from Fourth Base Restaurant. And Amber Gray. Thank you for joining us here in Rotary today. We appreciate having you. All right, in a few minutes, we're going to hear from our speaker, Mayor Barrett, soon to be ambassador to Luxembourg. But before we get into the program, we've got some club business to take care of. Today, we've got 2 new members to introduce in Rotary. That's one of the most exciting parts of this job and one of the great things for Rotary because it's what continues and keeps our club strong. So please welcome Fritz Usinger and Jackie Barber up to the stage to introduce our 2 newest members at the podium.
Thank you, President Todd. It's my pleasure to introduce Rotary's newest member, Kyle Fierick. Kyle is a funeral director and serves as vice president of Fierick Funeral Home. He represents the 5th generation of his 125-year-old family business located in Shorewood. Kyle grew up in Milwaukee, attending Dominican High School and Cardinal Stritch University, where he majored in marketing and minored in music. Community service is important to Kyle, and he serves as president of the Shorewood's Men Club and is a former board member of the Shorewood Business Improvement District. As a longtime musician, singer, and songwriter, Kyle has recorded and released 2 full-length albums and 4 EPs. And over the years, he's been nominated by the Wisconsin Area Music Industry, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and Shepherd Express as both Best Male Vocalist and Best DJ. Kyle's hobbies include performing music. He does about 50 gigs each year. He collects music, and he even finds time for golf. Kyle and his wife, Becca, a pediatric nurse, reside in Bayside with their children, Lily, 9, and Oliver, 5. Please welcome Kyle to Rotary Club of Milwaukee.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much. It's an honor for me to be welcomed into Milwaukee Rotary. I'd like to thank Fritz Usinger for being my sponsor and for the introduction. I look forward to exploring all the opportunities that Milwaukee Rotary offers, opportunities to help better the community and city that we all live and work in. My father, Pat Fierick, was a member of Milwaukee Rotary for many years. And my first memory of the club was when I was about 16. It was an outing to see the Dennis Sullivan. And there's actually a picture of my dad and I on the Dennis Sullivan right above his desk at work. And so I remember him being a proud member of the club, meeting some wonderful people here. I know that this organization has many amazing speakers that I'm looking forward to listening to and getting some insight from them. Most of all, I'm looking forward to meeting new people and having some fun with everyone. So thank you again for allowing me to be a member of Milwaukee Rotary.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Todd. Good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased to reintroduce Joe Kerr, my friend and Chief Operations Officer of the Milwaukee Athletic Club. Joe has an impressive background of leading premier hospitality operations to excellence in the Midwest, including Notre Dame's Morris Inn, the Pfister Hotel, and Kohler's American Club. Joe is relocating from Northern Indiana, where he served as a senior director of University of Notre Dame for the Morris Inn and the Notre Dame Conference Center for the past 7 years. Under Joe's leadership, the Morris Inn was recognized by TripAdvisor as the #1 hotel in the US for service in 2020. Joe brought a $45 million renovation project to the Morris Inn to reflect and to be a new brand. And prior to joining Notre Dame, Joe was the general manager of Milwaukee's iconic Pfister Hotel for 6 years. And he's coming back to Rotary after being away from us. I concur with Joe by describing his strengths as collaboration, listening, flexibility, and a spirit to serve. He plans to focus on individual member experience, programming, athletics, wellness, social, family, and incorporating co-ed spaces in an inclusive environment at the MAC. The MAC is scheduled to open in December and beginning a pre-opening membership on October 1st. Joe is looking for a few good people in key leadership positions in finance, members orientation, and operations, and athletics, just in case any of you have access to people looking for a position. Joe and his wife, Andrea, are looking forward to celebrating 25 years of marriage later this year, and both are excited to be returning to Milwaukee. Having grown up as the son of a pastor and a missionary father, Joe was fortunate to live in Malawi, Africa, as a child during his father's service there. He looks forward to sharing his stories about being chased by an elephant in the elephant bar at the MAC. So if you stop by, be sure to ask him about that. I've known Joe for over 10 years. He is an avid golfer, and I also always invite him to serve as one of my golfing buddies. He loves to travel, and he's an exceptional servant leader. Please join me in re-welcoming Joe to the club.
It is a privilege to be back in a city that just won't let you go. I'm proud to be in Milwaukee, a city I believe in. I'm proud to be welcomed back into Rotary, a family and a club that I believe in. I look forward to seeing many of you at the Milwaukee Athletic Club as we work together in this great city moving forward. Thank you.
Welcome back. All right. Thank you, Fritz and Jackie and Kyle and Joe. We're excited to have you in our club or back in our club. We're honored that you guys made the decision to join. Quick update on the rainy rain dates of the Rotary Scholarship Classic, which occurred yesterday. The rain this time couldn't stop us. Thanks for everybody who made it out to the golf event, the auction. Both were a success despite a questionable start with the weather. Pictures of the classic ran on the screen before the presentation. They're on our Facebook page and in the emails if you guys want to check them out. For those of you who were able to golf or have golfed in the past, you remember that our champion team has been fielded by Richie Burke, Jamie Reeve, Toby Reynolds, and Saj Thatchenkary. Being the great sportsmen that they are, they put up some seed money for a fund for the Beat the Champs event. So on the 8th hole, we were supposed to have a contest, really them against the field, and unfortunately because of the weather, we weren't able to have that. So basically golfers paid $20 for an opportunity to beat the champ. Proceeds totaled over $2,500, which would be split 50-50 with the winners. Half to the scholarship program, half to the winners. So because we weren't able to have the event, we do have everybody's names in here. We're going to draw one at random for the winner of the Beat the Champs event. So we have Jean Casey. Is Jean? I don't see Jean here. So congratulations to Jean on winning the 50-50 raffle. And again, our reigning champions, I think next year will still be the reigning champions, but it'll be RAINING champions. So congratulations to those guys, and thank you very much for
having that event. It is important to remember why we have the golf outing. It's a great time had, but really it's to support our 21 scholarship students. So take a few minutes to read the Scholar Corner featured in the weekly emails. And if you guys notice on your tables, you should have the two most recent profiles for Juan Padilla Mendez, a biology major at UW Milwaukee, as well as Kenyon Terrell, a theater major at Fordham University. So congratulations to all of our scholars, and thank you for everybody who made the event yesterday. Once again, Rotary is proud to be a sponsor of Hike Milwaukee, fundraising event for the Urban Ecology Center and our Milwaukee Rotary Centennial Arboretum. That event runs from September 5th or September 25th until October 2nd. Like last year, the event will be spread over a week to make sure we don't have too many people in one place at a given time. There are a multitude of different hikes. Some are long and moderately strenuous. There's short leisurely hikes. There's really a hike for everybody. So if you're interested, feel free to bring family, bring friends. As a sponsor, Rotary has 55 tickets. So please check your email or reach out to the Rotary office if you're interested in attending. Tomorrow is our next Rotary Social, Wednesday, September 15th at the Milwaukee Yacht Club. So those of you who were there last, it was a great event. We had a nice turnout. We had a beautiful evening. I think the weather's going to cooperate with us tomorrow as well. So starting at 5 p.m., you can join us for appetizers and a cash bar to catch up with fellow Rotarians and enjoy one of these great late summer or early fall days. So please put that on your calendar and plan on attending. The next Rotarian tour will take place at the newly opened Granite Hills Hospital on Thursday, September 30th at 7:45 a.m. So Granite Hills was created as a new resource for behavioral health and will provide intensive day programs and inpatient care to address the growing demand of mental health services in Wisconsin. So it'll be a very unique opportunity to explore the facility before the patients actually arrive. Thanks to Jerry Stepaniak for making these arrangements. Stay tuned for more details, and please email the Rotary office if you'd like to register for the tour. Finally, as a reminder, Rotary is hosting another book read this fall. The book is The Sum of Us: What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together. So that book is out there. That is our next Rotary book read. A group discussion will be held on September 30th from 4 to 5:30, and follow-up discussions will be held on October 14th and the 28th, all of which will occur over Zoom. So thanks again to Paula Pennebaker for leading the discussions together. And if you'd like to join these conversations, again, just please let Aaron in the Rotary office know and he can make sure you're set up. Now, Jeremy Janine, President and CEO of Urban Milwaukee, will introduce our speaker.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I guess, at this point. As a member of the press corps, I'm used to being in the back, but I guess they let me be in the front for today. I'm here to introduce Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett. I think at this point, there might not be much else to say, but I will say that I'm thankful he's mayor. I'm perpetually late to everything, and when I'm getting to a press conference on time, that's often a challenge, but it turns out as long as Tom Barrett's been mayor, I've often ended up being on time. At those press conferences, I've had the opportunity to study what I would call Barrettisms. The speech normally would start with something like, "The sun is shining on Milwaukee today." Often then it would pivot to a 1960s or 1970s song reference. Joni Mitchell ones are often my favorite. Sometimes you do get a bit of observational humor, maybe in place of the song lyric, maybe not. Something along the lines of, when President Biden called to nominate me to be ambassador to Luxembourg, I made sure to ask, "No, it's not Luxembourg near Green Bay, is it?" They usually get about that much laughter too. Just kidding. But inevitably, at some point, there's a pivot to a serious topic. And often that comes with a line about Milwaukee is fighting back. And we're just a couple weeks away from the mayor having to unveil his budget. I think there's gonna be a lot of serious issues discussed as part of that. As we all know, they're probably going to be discussed in the context of some of the people voting on that budget running for mayor at the same time. I suspect today we'll hear about a number of those issues. We're going to hear about, I would suspect, the looming pension issue with coming for the city. We're going to hear about the city and state's relationship, and we'll probably also hear about policing, because that's been not only a topic for the past 2 years, but one that has been dominating the discussion increasingly in the city of Milwaukee. And we'll also hear one, I'm going to guess, I haven't seen the speech, but I'm going to guess we'll hear a bit about the American Rescue Plan Act and the opportunities that the $394 million the city is set to receive, what that could do for Milwaukee. But anyways, I don't want to steal any more of his thunder, and I want to get done while the sun is still shining on Milwaukee. Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. That is without a doubt the most recent introduction I've ever had. So thank you very much. I want to compliment Jeremy because he does a great job. And what I tell my staff is I hate learning things in the newspaper and I hate learning things on TV about the city. I want to know about it ahead of time. And I can say this is my highest compliment. I learn things from what you write. So I appreciate that very, very much. So bonjour, guten tag, and that's all I'm going to say about foreign relations right there. But I want to start off by saying how humbled I am that President Biden has nominated me for this position. I'm not going to talk about what's coming because I don't know what's coming. And I do want to spend some time talking about exactly what Jeremy said. So thank you for giving my speech. I appreciate that very, very much. He's covered me enough to know my pivots and my moves. And I think one thing you can say is I am predictable, and I appreciate that. I don't want to cause any drama. I like to get the job done. And I want to just have everybody in this room know how much I love being the mayor of Milwaukee. This is an unbelievable opportunity to have this job for someone who grew up on Milwaukee's west side from a family where no one was ever involved in politics, and where my mother repeatedly discouraged me from going into politics or staying in politics. And probably the best reflection of that was many years ago when I was in Congress, and I asked my mother what she wanted for Mother's Day. And she said, I want you to quit politics. I want you to come home and be a normal person and raise your family. All those people in Washington, they're nothing but a bunch of backstabbers. And I said, oh, Mom, that's not true. They'll stab you right in the chest. But in a sense, that's one of the things that I love about politics and public policy when done correctly, is that you can have, after the perfunctory jokes about the weather and what's going on in the city, you can have a serious discussion about our community, about the problems we face, the challenges we have, and the opportunities for our community. And I have been blessed that I've served at the federal level, the state level, and the local level. And I've enjoyed all experiences immensely. And the major difference, I would say, and the way I describe it is at the federal level, it's as though you're in an airplane flying at 35,000 feet. You can see the ground below, but you really can't make out much of what's going on there. At the state level, the plane is about 4,000 feet above the ground, so you can make out buildings and people, but you're still not on the ground. At the local level, there are times when you are literally in the trenches. And so I describe it as, without a doubt, the grittiest branch of government. And I think that's a positive word, the gritty work that's done to improve people's lives. Another thing I say at the local level, there's not a lot of theory. This is about what works and what doesn't work. If it works, you keep doing it. If it doesn't work, you change it and make believe you never did that in the first place. So it's a lot of trying to make sure that you're helping people in their lives, the challenges that they face, and what you can do to make it better for them. And the place where that often starts is right in the neighborhoods of Milwaukee. And the city of Milwaukee is, I think we all recognize, a city of incredible neighborhoods. And one of the parts I've enjoyed most about this job, and we haven't been able to do it this year or last year, is for a number of years I would take my 100 miles in 100 days walks through the neighborhoods of Milwaukee. Every single part of the city, any part of the city that would have me. Sometimes it was as few as 2 people. Sometimes would have been the whole school, like the Hmong American Peace Academy, where we had over 1,000 kids taking a walk through the neighborhood. But when you see the neighborhoods from that vantage point and you talk to people on their porches, you get a much different sense than you do when you're watching it on TV or even if you're in a car. And it is important for us to support our neighborhoods. And that's one of the things that I've tried to do. And I think most people don't recognize, for example, the high profile projects that we all read about or see about are the ones downtown. And that's great. I'm a firm believer that you have to have a strong heart. And the downtown is the heart of the city of Milwaukee, and you have to have the heart beating strongly. And I'm proud to say I believe that the heart of Milwaukee is beating very strongly, stronger than it was decades ago. And that's a very positive thing. But the reason you want the heart to be beating so strongly is so that you can get the blood, if you will, that flows through the arteries and the veins throughout the entire community, and so that you can make sure that the neighborhoods are doing well. So that when you're talking to people on the south side and they want to have a library, you make sure you have to have a healthy downtown to support that library, or having police on the west side or firefighters on the north side. So you have to make sure that you've got that strong downtown. So when you look, for example, at the tax incremental finance districts that we have, which is the most powerful tool the local government has to encourage economic development, there's an assumption, I think, oftentimes that they're downtown. But the fact of the matter is, of the most recent 10 tax incremental districts that we have in the city of Milwaukee, 9 of them have been supportive of neighborhood efforts. The only exception being the Milwaukee tool, which is going to add lots of jobs, the most significant influx of jobs from a suburban employer to the city in decades. And so that tells you where our values are. Our values are in the neighborhoods to make sure that we're doing what we can to bolster the neighborhoods. That's why I'm proud of the work we've done in housing. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit here as well, in terms of coming attractions, or hopefully coming attractions. But I created a goal of 10,000 homes, either new homes or renovated homes. And we're well on our way to meet that target. And in fact, with the help of President Biden and our congressional delegation with the funding, I hope to put even more dollars into housing, because that clearly is one of the priorities that we have. But everything that we're looking at now, and I think everybody in this room recognizes it, has to be done through the prism of what we've gone through over the last 18 months. And when I say the prism of the last 18 months, it's not just one thing. Without a doubt, the COVID has changed every one of our lives in ways that may never be the same. From a health perspective, it also led to the economic tsunami that has been so uneven. And all you have to do is read the media and see that those who are wealthiest got even wealthier over the last year and a half, and those that were struggling are struggling even more. Unfortunately, many of those who are struggling even more are the residents of the city of Milwaukee, because we know that there is a significant percentage of our population that lives in poverty. And those are the individuals in the service jobs, those are the individuals who didn't have the ability to work remotely and didn't have the ability to have the Zoom meetings, sometimes because there's too many people in the home or the connectivity is not good in their neighborhood. And so this has been very uneven. So as a mayor, you want to make sure that everyone is prospering. And without a doubt, over the last year and a half, it's been those who have been at the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder that have suffered the most because of the pandemic. But we also know that the world changed last year with George Floyd, and what happened in Minneapolis reverberated not only through Minnesota, but through Milwaukee, throughout the entire nation. And the fight for racial justice, as many would say, the overdue fight for racial justice, is certainly at the forefront of what we're trying to achieve in the city of Milwaukee as well. And that's why when we make our decisions in our ARPA spending, we do it always through an equity lens. What can we do to make sure that we're lifting those most economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, so that we can create more opportunities for individuals so they can support their families, so that they can get the job training that's necessary, so that they can have decent housing, so that they can have homes that are safe from lead paint. Those are the issues that are certainly at the forefront of what we're trying to do, and that's what we're going to continue to do. But we've also put money into the business community. Working with the federal government, working with the state, we've got our Restart program where we've given out millions of dollars of grants to small businesses. And we purposefully focused on small businesses. And the reason we did that is if you go back to earlier this year and last year, with the first legislation, clearly large businesses were able to benefit because they knew the rules. They knew how to apply for the grants. It was those small businesses that didn't know how to do it. And so that's where we put our focus. Those businesses that would not be eligible for those federal dollars. We also worked to make sure that our streets were activated in a way so that restaurants, for example, could move into the streets. Some people love that, some people don't love that. But that was to be helpful to businesses, to make sure that they had an opportunity to succeed. So all of these changes that have occurred over the last year and a half, I think have tried all of us. They've tried us in business, they've tried us in our personal lives, they certainly have tried us in government, and challenged us in ways we've never challenged before. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you probably the most difficult non-policy portion of that for me in this job has been I've lost my ability to go out and talk to people and to interact with people on a daily basis. And that has been the hardest part for me. And the reason I say that is in this job, sometimes you're in a pressure cooker and you think when you're in City Hall, you think the whole world is revolving around you. And you've got all these things flying at you at once. And what I've said about in the event that I am confirmed, we were talking about a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks who now are going to be able to have an opportunity to run for this job. And I said, those Monday morning quarterbacks are about to find out that there are lots of blitzes in this game because you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. And so it's important, I think, to be able to get out of that City Hall. That, for my successor, that is certainly going to be one of my biggest recommendations is go to the fish fries, go to the Rotary lunches, go to the Little League games, and talk to regular people. And that's the part that I've missed the most, talking to regular people, where you go maybe 300 yards from City Hall or 8 miles from City Hall, and you realize the whole world is not revolving around the decisions that are made. People are more concerned about their neighborhood, they're more concerned about their families, they're more concerned about their jobs. And you have to focus on that. But as I look at our city right now, and I look at where we are as a community, and I think you start again at the heart of the city, I think we can all understand that from the Deer District to the work that's being done with construction and new jobs and new buildings in the heart of the city, that trajectory is really positive. And then we have to continue that positive trajectory. But we also have to then double down on our efforts to make sure we're doing everything we can for those economically challenged neighborhoods. And sometimes it is job training, sometimes it's other things, but some of it can be things that you don't think of, like sustainability, for example. And we put a focus on sustainability. I'm proud of the fact that at the airport now we've got this huge solar panel farm that's allowing us to make the transition away from fossil fuels, because clearly that's the direction we are going as a nation, as a world, and we want to make sure we're doing everything we can there to support solar. We want to continue our work in energy efficiency, because I think that that's important as well. So those are the types of issues that we all recognize are important to a community and important to making sure we're doing everything we can. But I do want to focus, as Jeremy predicted, I would. So this is, you can leave if you want, because you've probably heard this so many times. I want to talk about our relationship with the state of Wisconsin. Because this is, and I may be gone. I mean, I'm not packing my bags. I'm going to run through the tape. The person who was nominated for this job 4 years ago was nominated in September and was not confirmed until May. So again, whether you like me or not, I'm here. And I'm planning on running through the tape, just to be clear. But I really need our community, and our business community in particular, to focus on our fiscal relationship with the state of Wisconsin. If you read the articles over the last couple months, we are hovering at near record surpluses at the state level. Part of that is due to the fact that the governor and the legislature have not been able to agree on what the priorities should be in having that surplus. Part of it has been due to the tax collections. In one area, for example, huge increases in excise taxes. People have been drinking more so that there's more money than the state has ever had. You would never, ever know that in the state's relationship with the largest city in the state, the city with the highest percentage of people living in poverty. That is a huge, huge problem. And it is most evident in the area of public safety. And this is what is so perplexing to me. Because you read the reports and the volatile conversations about the funding police. The fact of the matter is, the most effective defender of police in the city of Milwaukee has been the Wisconsin legislature. Hands down. Hands down. All the protests, all the fights, it's the legislature that's defunding the police. We're down several hundred cops, and I've said this repeatedly. Those decisions were not philosophical decisions. Those were fiscal decisions that led us to the reduction of the police officers on the streets of the city of Milwaukee. And you've got the laws, the labor laws, that have basically gone after everybody but the police and fire. And whether you like that or not, that's the major driver of our costs as a government, police and fire. And so the fact that we have no tools to control those costs means that those costs are going up. The state shared revenue has been stagnant or going down at a time when the state is awash in a surplus. It makes no sense at all. And you have to wonder, is the goal for this city to fail? Well, as long as I'm mayor, I'm not going to let it fail. And you're right, we're going to fight back. We're going to fight back just as we've done for every day to make the case for this city, because we are an economic driver. We are the economic driver. When we did an analysis several years ago, and you can go back 10, 12 years, and the argument could be made that Milwaukee got more money than it received from the state. That has flipped because of the economic successes we've had in the city, where we now are a donor to the state. Yet our ability to control these issues and these public safety issues are hampered. And this, when you talk about gritty, this morning I was briefed by the police chief and the individuals on his command staff that are most familiar with what just happened yesterday, where you have a mass shooting at a vigil. That's what happened yesterday. 5 individuals at a vigil were shot. Clearly there's something going on there in terms of revenge. And yes, we're going to put the resources in to deal with it, but we don't have as many resources as we need to deal with a situation like that. And we're talking about teenagers, essentially, that are doing this. And so somehow we, and I may be here, I may not be here, but we have to change this dialogue with the state, and we have to ensure that we are treated fairly. It just has not happened. And so that is my strongest plea to you. Now, what are the barriers? Well, okay, they don't like the fact that we have a streetcar or a trolley. Let's say that we are putting several $1 million a year into supporting that. And my response to that is, look, it's here. You can't continue to punish the city because you don't like a local decision. Let's move past that because the stakes are too high. The other gripe they have is that we're getting money from the federal government. Well, I'm not going to apologize for getting money from the federal government. So we're receiving $394 million. And part of my goal over the next few months is to make sure that we spend the first tranche of the money, the $197 million responsibly. And we're off to a good start. We're not as fast as I would like us to be, But we put money into summer jobs. We put money into our basic life support system for the fire department. We put money, $7 million, into dealing with the reckless driving problem, which is a real problem in our city. We put money into helping individuals who have been evicted have legal representation, because it doesn't do anybody any good once that case hits the courtroom. But we can do more, and I hope that we do more. And I hope we do more in the areas of housing, in the area of early education, and in the area of paint remediation, because that remains a serious issue. So that's what I'm going to try to work on in the remaining months or whatever I have in this job, is to try to work with the council to see what we can do to make those priorities the priorities we need. So what do I want to do? And I'll cut this short, because if there's questions or other things, we can certainly have those conversations. I want to make sure that we spend this ARPA funding responsibly. The problem we have with the state there is they want us to take that spending and not do anything to address the issues that we have in the city. This is my perception. They want us to plug our pension hole, which is a serious issue. But that's going to need, again, a partnership with the state for us to deal with the pension issue that we have. So I want us to spend that money responsibly. I want us to have a good budget, a solid budget. But the last thing I want is a little selfish. Earlier this year, as you know, the Bucks won the championship. And I felt like I was 13 years old standing on that stage as they were getting things. And as a politician, I have always stayed away from sporting events. I'm a big sports fan, but I just remember many, many years ago being at Lambeau Field, and the governor at the time, I don't remember who it was, got booed. And I'm thinking, okay, if I'm in politics, I am not going to speak at Packer games or Brewers games or Bucks games. Because Democrat or Republican, you're going to get booed. And so even the parade, I said, I don't know if I want to do a parade. You know, they boo all politicians in these parades. Well, I got a break. And the break I got when we did the parade for the Bucks championship is there were only 14 or 15 vehicles. And I was maybe the 12th vehicle. So you could see the Bucks players 2 vehicles behind me. So as we were going by, people were cheering. And my perception is they weren't cheering for me. They were cheering because another car was going past. And the Bucks were only 2 vehicles away. So I was happy with that. So my selfishness is I just would like a World Series parade. That's all I'm asking. Just give us a World Series parade. If the Brewers could comply with that, that would be something that would be a nice gesture as well. So again, I can talk, and I will talk in question and answer about some of the other issues. But again, my theme here today is we have a great, great city. We have a great city. We've got challenges, but we have people who love the city, who are engaged, who want to make this a better community. And it happens when businesses, when individuals, when corporations, when foundations get engaged. And so please, please, please stay engaged. And I know at the Rotary, I'm speaking to the choir. I'm preaching to the choir here, because by definition, you're engaged. You are making this a better city for all of us. Thank you very much. Any questions? I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah. Well, so let me repeat the question is, are we selling our home if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed as ambassador moving to Luxembourg? That's a really good question. My wife and I have lived in our home on the west side of Milwaukee for 22 years. And just to give you a little answer there, this is the home. It's about 150 yards from the house I grew up in. It's on Washington Boulevard. I grew up on High Mountain. I loved growing up there. And when we had our 4th child, this is 22 years ago, and we needed a new home, I said to my wife, who's from Beloit, so she had never lived in this part of the city at all, I said, we should look in the neighborhood I grew up in. And my wife's response was, you're already fixated in your childhood. I don't want to relive your childhood by moving into your old neighborhood. Well, I have some political skills, and we were able to buy that house. My wife loves it, to the extent that several weeks ago we were taking a walk, and I said, if this comes to pass, should we begin to start thinking about what we're going to do with the house? And my wife doesn't cry very often other than funerals. And the tears started coming. And you have never seen me backpedal faster than I did at that moment, where I said, I didn't say we should sell the house. I said, should we begin thinking about what we're going to do about the house? So there is no way, if I'm fortunate enough to get this job, that house is for sale. And this is where our home is, and this is where our hearts are. So we're happy there. Yeah, Tom. Hmm. So the question is the DNC convention. I certainly think, and I have publicly stated, I absolutely believe that we should seek to get the convention again. It is competitive, and what I described, again, when we were going through this last year, people are saying, well, they should just automatically give it to us in 2024. And the analogy I drew at that time was, wait a minute, the Bucks had the best record in the NBA when the pandemic started. Nobody gave them the championship. In fact, then they played, they didn't get it. And they weren't going to give them the championship the next year. Fortunately, we won it the next year. And so it would be competitive. I think the real question there is the business community, because there are a number of individuals and corporations in the business community who felt burned. They felt burned because it was such a heavy lift. But I think we can still do it. And I think we would have a very, very good chance. So I hope we do it. I hope we do it. Yeah.
Mayor, what part did Chris or what play in the decision to accept the ambassador? And what are your thoughts after that? What is the future?
Well, my wife has been fabulous throughout my entire career, and she's had to put up a lot. I will say we met after I was already involved I was in the state assembly when we met. So my response is, look, there was full disclosure. You knew you were buying tainted goods when we first started. And she reminds me of, I think the first time I had her over to my apartment for a dinner when we just started dating. And we had dinner, and I said, hey, listen, I'm just going to run over to St. Margaret Mary for an Eagle Scout Award. Do you want to come with me, or do you want to stay here in my apartment? And she was like, what is with this guy? She went with me, but we were married 30 years this year, so things have worked out. She was a teacher, and she taught for MPS for a number of years. And then after Act 10, she was laid off 3 years in a row. And then she moved over to Wauwatosa because she had been laid off 3 years in a row, and it got too difficult for her. So ironically, I got the call offering me the ambassadorship during her end of school retirement luncheon from teaching. Literally during the time she was leaving school, retiring. So the timing is very good on that front. Yeah, Mary. My greatest accomplishments as mayor, two. Well, I certainly think that the work that we did in the Menominee Valley, transforming that, if you go back 20 years, you literally needed an all-terrain vehicle to get from one end of the valley to the other end of the valley. And as you drive through it now, and it began in many ways with the Harley Davidson. And you probably nobody in this room remembers this. Initially, the conversations were not for that site. They were actually closer to near Spectrum is located. And then the question was, where would there was a city of Milwaukee cement plant there and a public works plant there. And during the period between when John Norquist left and I left, the Department of Public Works said that they wanted to have the new site, if they were going to move, they would prefer to have it, please, on the down in Bayview overlooking Lake Michigan. And one of the first things I said was that is not going to be overlooking Bayview over Lake Michigan. And we put it at Century City. We put that public works site at Century City because I felt we had to create job opportunities there. That obviously the Potawatomi has been incredible, but I think that has been a major, major win for us. And then I think a lot of the work we've done in the heart of the city has been very positive. There's more housing throughout the city, not just downtown, but throughout the city. You go, for example, up to the northwest side and look at West Lawn Gardens. And if you haven't driven through West Lawn Gardens, you should drive through West Lawn Gardens. And that's our public housing authority, which when I was in Congress, most members of Congress sprinted away from their public housing authorities. I always felt it was really positive. And so we didn't do that. We didn't do that. Other questions? Anything that? Yeah. My next advice to the next, oh, I'm sorry. What is my advice to the next mayor is in the city of Milwaukee, you clearly have a wide variety of racial differences, economic differences, neighborhood differences in terms of the city. But the underlying strength, I think, of this community is in the neighborhoods. And it's to focus on those neighborhoods, not to be a polarizing, and I've tried not to be a polarizing figure. That's just not in my nature to do that. I never wanted to do that. And to try to represent everybody, whether they voted for me or not, because I think I've always felt play the long game, play the long game, play the long game. And what I learned long ago is that in politics there are never permanent friends and there are never permanent enemies. And so try to stay on the issues. It's very, very easy to take it personally. And the way I've tried to deal with that is literally to treat it like a sport. And what I mean by that is, without a doubt, people try to get under your skin in this job or any job of responsibility. And when I see someone trying to do that, the last thing I'm going to do is to show you that you're under my skin. Because if I let you know you're under my skin, you win. And I'm just not going to let that happen. So sometimes people are amazed when someone is screaming at me and I'm not screaming back. That doesn't mean that I don't get mad. That doesn't mean I don't get firm. But I'm just not going to let that happen. So, and you can't let that happen in this job. You just can't let that happen because there was one individual, and I won't even name the individual, who worked for city government for a long time. And I sat down with him and I said, look, I'm concerned and because you're acting as though people are out to get you. I just want you to know people are out to get you. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. And you just have to abide by that. So, but again, we have challenges. We'll have a new police chief soon. We have to deal with the crime. And again, that in terms of advice for the city, there's a serious problem right now. There is a serious problem. I think it's going to involve not just the police department. It's going to involve the state of Wisconsin, the county. The decisions that we make, very, very important decisions, are what do we do with youthful offenders? How do we treat them? It can't be go home and be good because that's not working. It cannot be overly punitive. But there is a real problem right now. And I say that because I think just, again, the example I used is from this morning. These are young people that are involved in these retaliatory actions that we have seen over the last 24 hours. And we cannot allow that to happen. So to put a lot of focus on that as well. I am concerned about that. All right, well, thank you very, very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, for your service to our city, and we wish you the best of luck in your confirmation process and all your future endeavors. In honor of guests like you coming and speaking to our club, we will make a donation in your name to the YWCA of Southeastern Wisconsin, whose mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. Now, I believe John Franke has a few words to share with Mayor Barrett as well.
In the spirit of Harry Franke, I like to be forward-looking, but nothing rhymes with ambassador. And nothing particularly pleasant rhymes with Luxembourg. Barrett, on the other hand, is pretty easy. But you used a word in your talk twice that I'm going to go with. At its core, the work has been gritty. Even good results rarely seem pretty. 17 years our mayor, now definitely grayer. Thanks for helping to lift up our city.
Thank you, John. Please join us next Tuesday for our speaker, Eddie Daniel, author of The Milwaukee River Greenway, A Wealth of Nature in the Heart of the City. A couple quick reminders, probably not the last time you'll hear me say it, but starting on Tuesday, October 5th, Rotary will meet for breakfast, not lunch, on the first Tuesday of every month here in Memorial Hall. The breakfast buffet will open at 7:30. The program will start at 8, and everybody will be on their way by 9 o'clock. The rest of the day is yours. So Peter Fagan, president of the Milwaukee Bucks, will be our speaker on October 5th. Please mark your calendars for our first Rotary breakfast meeting. Also, a couple other reminders. Please mark your calendars for the social tomorrow night at the Yacht Club, September 15th, and the Tyrotarian Granite Hills Tour on September 30th. Hope to see all of you at the Arboretum for Hike Milwaukee, and join us for the discussion of The Sum of All of Us by Heather McGee later this month as well. Final note, board members, please note that we are meeting in the Rotary office in room 320 today after today's meeting, not room 413. And with that, let's go out and do some good in the world. This meeting is adjourned.